Hello fellow tacticians, and welcome to the first of what I am hoping will be many Tacticus videos that I will be bringing you. I am Jace with DreadZone Gaming, and for our first video, I wanted to do something super simple, and hopefully something that will be beneficial for all the new players to the game, and also people maybe in the medium experience category that just aren't familiar with what everything is good for, and maybe get a little bit of information on how they can prioritize their rosters here. So, just like reading a book, we're going to start at the top left and work all the way down. We're going to be doing this in order of faction, just so we can kind of keep a little bit of cohesiveness here. Now, for those that don't know, you can click this button, and it will sort everything by power. Really fantastic for you to see kind of what at the top of your roster, but also sharing with guildmates or clans or discords or whatever. Using this screenshot right here will be the best way to let people know what you're prioritizing so they can give you some advice. Now, with that being said, let's jump right into it. The Necrons, as a whole, are going to be a required faction for your Indomitus Mirror campaign, and campaigns are the way that you get your gear, so definitely worth doing. Now, the first three characters are going to be the only ones that are required, so let's jump right into them. First, Makotep. He's going to be your sniper. He's decent for legendary release events, but outside of that, nothing too fantastic. Wouldn't really prioritize him. Spec here does have his uses. If you don't have characters like Volk or Malkin Raw, he can definitely fill the role of a multi-hit ranged hitter and really synergize well with some of the other characters in the game that we're going to be talking about. So, I'd prioritize him if you don't have the other characters I mentioned. Volk, Malkin Raw. Aleph Null is going to be the highlight character for the Necron faction, in my personal opinion. Has great uses in PvP, mainly due to his summon. These scarabs come out, they're able to replicate, and they just swarm the map if left unchecked. Also, Aleph Null is fantastic for the guild raid Mortarion. Mortarion does not like melee units, will focus them and absolutely eviscerate them, especially in legendary difficulties. Aleph Null's scarabs can survive that and also give you a little bit of a melee meat shield to help your character survive a little bit. Thutmose just was recently buffed because the Indomitus Mirror campaign elite, the first two sections of that were just released. He now has the flying trait, so a little bit better in that regard. However, I really don't find too many uses for this character. Anufet does have ranged summons that he is able to spawn, very similar to how Bellator, another character that we're going to be talking about here, works. The more rounds that go by, the more that he's able to summon. He can kind of fill a little bit of the role that Commissar Yark is able to fill. However, you kind of have to wait for turns to pass or your Necrons to die for him to really get the most optimization out of his summon. And that is the Necrons in a nutshell. Moving in, we have the Black Legion. The Black Legion are once again going to be required for a campaign. This one instead will be the Fall of Cadia campaign, which does have a fully fleshed out elite version. Going through, Angrax. Great character, and the reason is his passive ability will pretty much sideswipe anything that wants to move away from him. So if you're able to park him next to a spawn and say Onslaught or a legendary release event, anything that spawns and then moves away from that spawn, he will swipe. You get it strong enough, you one-shot everything coming out of that hole. Then we have Volk. Now, I mentioned earlier that Spec can be a budget version of him, and essentially the reason that is because Volk has a passive that gives him a 30% chance to add an additional 300 damage to each of his attack. Now, mind you, this is rank 35. Each rank is different. This number will change. So, and he does a 6-hit ranged attack. Absolutely fantastic for some of the synergies that we'll be mentioning here later. Archimatos is going to be the pretty much staple character for the Black Legion faction for his usefulness. He has a summon, he's able to summon bloodletters, and is able to summon a max of them. So he can completely surround a target if it survives and just get a whole bunch of summons on the board that will really mess adversaries up. He's fantastic use for a lot of the guild raids that are out there. Highly recommend that you use this character, and he certainly will provide benefits for that campaign without a doubt. Harkin World Claimer is going to be one of the characters that you get very early on. I have mine leveled up for the Fall of Cadia campaign, and also to unlock the Rogue Trader. He was just the one that I had the most shards for, so got that knocked out. He has flying. He is pretty decent when it comes to damage. I wouldn't prioritize him too heavily outside of campaign. Not really too many uses that you'll get out of him outside of that. I was lucky enough, or unlucky enough, as some might say, to pick up Abaddon the Despoiler. He is a legendary character on pool, however, legendary in just name, not effects. Overall, he's pretty weak, but he does give your Black Legion characters a little bit of a buff. Nothing to write home about. He's helpful to finish out the campaign. Now, mind you, just like the Necrons, the first 3 were required for the campaign. Angrax and Harkin and Archimados are actually going to be the ones required for this campaign. Volk and Abaddon are optional. Also, any other Chaos character can be used for the Fall of Cadia campaign, so that is nice. Moving into Orcs. I know the community is not very happy with this one. The Orcs are definitely a lackluster faction as a whole, but they are required for the Octarius campaign. Let's go to that real quick. So, we do have the Indominus Mirror, which now has its elite version. The Fall of Cadia that I just talked about with its elite version. And Octarius, which also has an elite version. Mind you, I haven't gotten very far in Octarius Elite. And my Orcs aren't terrible. That campaign is a nightmare. But let's jump into these Orcs, shall we? So, Snotflaga. He's like the only character that I've seen really used outside of the actual campaign. I've seen him in some higher tiers of PvP. He gets very tanky at higher levels and hits pretty decently with a decent summon. Mind you, it's not great. Gibba Scraps is going to be the mechanical healer. He is able to heal people and also summon a tank that really helps out. I put a lot of points into the tank just so it's not squishy, does decent damage. Once again, only for the campaign. Snapareka, once again, nothing special. Definitely for campaign. Tank Smasher, he gets pretty tanky. Campaign, and same with Ball Skullgorts. Nothing too special with the Orcs, unfortunately. They need some love. Now moving in for the Black Templars. Once again, another underwhelming faction in my personal opinion. Sword Brother Godswill, nothing too much going on for him. Brother Burchard can get pretty strong. There's just other characters that do his job better. He gets pretty tanky, deals some decent damage, but nothing to write home about. You also have Ancient Thoriad. He's kind of just a little bit of a buffer for your team. And more so, they're a tanky faction. That's what they're really here for, and it's just kind of underwhelming what they're able to bring to the table. These 3 characters are going to be required for another campaign. It's going to be the Octarius Mirror campaign, seen right here. Fortunately for that campaign, you're able to bring in other Imperials, so I was really able to carry that campaign out with my Commissar Yark, who we'll see here in a bit later. But these 3 characters are required to do the campaign. You can tell I did not put a lot of love in them. I literally just kept them in the back line and had my Bellator and my Commissar Yark do all the work. Then we get to Brother Jaeger. Once again, nothing too special. I wouldn't put a lot of love into him, not really useful for anything. The only standout character, in my personal opinion, for the Black Templars at the moment is going to be High Marshal Helbrecht. And the reason is the Tyrannid bosses, you have Turvagon, and you also have the Hive Tyrant. Both of those raids benefit, well, you benefit, they don't, from having High Marshal Helbrecht in your roster. And the reason is they are Psychers. And his passive, Destroy the Witch, gives you an additional 457 damage against those Psychers. really beneficial. You put him in your roster with some of the characters we're going to mention later, and you're able to deliver some insanely high hits. So this character, if you're lucky enough to get him, or you're dedicated enough to get him, he does require 500 shards, so a lot of farming, certainly. He's really great for that role, certainly. Mind you, sorry, bouncing back in here real quick, do want to take a look at his active. He adds more damage on top of the damage that he added from his passive, and with a 22% Pierce ratio, so pretty great. The Ultramarines. Unfortunately, I do not have Marneus Calgar, but let's go through the ones that I do have. These characters, you're going to be really familiar with them. You're going to get all of them right off the bat, starting this game off, so you should have these 4. Won't have him, unfortunately. Varro, he's a decent psyker. Nothing too special. He does have a really good AoE cleave that helps a lot with campaign. With his Storm of Wrath, you can hit up to 4 units, so that really can clear the board a little bit. His passive, it's kind of just a tanky passive to give to his allies. Mind you, I didn't mention this, I should have. These 3 characters right here, Varro, Certus, and Bellator, they are going to be required for the Indomitus campaign, so that's why mine are so high rated. I was actually able to finally finish the Indomitus Elite campaign. Super happy to get that done. So, we talked about Varro. Certus, he's going to be a sniper with Overwatch. Nothing too fancy. Does decent damage, but honestly, outside of campaign, I wouldn't bring him for anything. He does have some uses for his physical damage going into some legendary release events. And also, he is useful for the 1-hit requirement, so there is that. Bellator is the cream of the crop for the, I guess, Ultramarines that you're likely to get. Marneus Calgar is absolutely fantastic for PvP. He's also really fantastic for some guild raids. I will be focusing on getting him as soon as I unlock Celestine, who I'll talk to you about in a sec. But Bellator, he's going to be your go-to man. And essentially, the reason is he does 6 hits with his bolters, so he's going to synergize really well with Eldari, who, like I said, we'll talk about. And his summons. His summons come down. They also do 6 hits as well. And the more turns that go by, he summons more of them. So, if you're on turn 6, you're going to have 6 interceptors coming out and really mess up a target. Completely surround a boss, shred it to pieces. At higher levels, you can absolutely expect to do 30,000, 40,000 damage on 1 turn in a guild raid by synergizing Bellator with Eldari. And Syzus is going to be the healer for the Ultramarines, and unfortunately is just very underwhelming character. If you need a healer, cool. There's characters that do that better, and I'll talk about it in the next faction. Marneus Calgar, like I said, an absolute monster for PvP. Really good for the guild raids as well. Unfortunately, I don't have him unlocked, so you can't see the hit characteristics and everything else. But he's able to do a great AoE hit. But also the big thing here is he gives his friendly units a damage buff, extra if they're Imperial. So that's awesome. Plus the damage that he's able to do. Just absolutely shred stuff. That's your Ultramarines. Now for the Astro Militarium. Sorry. These characters are going to be required for, yep, you guessed it, another campaign. They're actually going to be for the Fall of Cadia Mirror campaign. Commissar Yarick is not really farmable anywhere in the game. Hopefully you picked him up initially if you were able to drop the money on it. If you're free to play, you'll be fine without him, but he's one of my staple characters. But you will require Sybil Divine, Cut Skoden, and Thaddeus. Now, Sybil Divine, she's a decent psyker. She's actually pretty decent for PvP because of this Night Shroud. She's able to give units around her infiltrate, and that essentially is able to surpass Overwatch. So you're able to go in, kill something that might have been looking for you, and right now Overwatch is a pretty big staple in PvP right now with Ravos. Commissar Yarick, I love this character. He got me through the beginning of the game 100%. He helped me with all the campaigns that I did pretty much, so I gave him a lot of love. And essentially, he was nerfed a couple months back, but he's still super strong. He is almost a must-have for Mortarion as well, and that's because his Cadian Guardsmen are ranged summons. The only negative to them is they require your allies to die first to get the most out of them. If you use it on turn 1, you get 2. A couple people die, you can get all the way up to 5, and you can see they do pretty decent damage for getting on the board there, so great character. Cutscoden, he's a tanky boy, required for the campaign. Other than that, I've got no love for him. Hardly put any effort into him. But Thaddeus Noble is an absolute menace to society. He is required for the campaign as well, but he has a great 3-hit blast damage. You can see here he's gold 1, deals 1100 damage a hit. And also, what's really nice for Thaddeus is he gives friendly units heavy weapon increased damage, which Malkin Raw uses a heavy weapon. Some other characters in the game that do decent damage, heavy weapon as well. But also he's really great for PvP too, and the reason is the active ability is the Basilisk Barrage. So if he doesn't move, he can pretty much call in artillery, and it's awesome. And the more turns that go by, the more reliable this artillery is. It will go where you aim it. And it can do a lot of damage. If you use it on turn 1, it can be very scattershot. It might miss your target completely. But it does apply suppressive fire, which can suppress. I don't think... Oh, we actually do get the tooltip. So they deal less movement, they get less movement, they deal less damage, and they cannot overwatch. So really great if you're not using any infiltrators. You can really take out somebody that's overwatching in PvP. Now, once again, unfortunately, I don't have Castellan Creed. I really want to get this character, and he synergizes so well with Yorick because he's able to summon more guardsmen out, but also at the same time, he's got great damage to apply as well, so able to summon the guardsmen and also get the guardsmen to take another turn. So if you're able to summon 5 guardsmen out with Yorick, get them into a different spot, then move Creed in and get them all to move again, it's pretty nasty combination. Moving into the Death Guard, nothing too crazy going in here for the Death Guard, with the exception being Rotbone has great uses in the game, but let's go through once more. I don't have Typhus. I think he's an awesome character. I've gotten a good chunk of the way through the Horus Heresy, so seeing some of the stuff that he's doing, interested in him. He's a Psyker once again. He's the tankiest Psyker, so if you're able to get him, he's able to meet some of the requirements for the legendary release events. He's able to do a pretty gnarly AoE damage ability with his Plague Wind, and of course, he's able to apply damage to a random enemy at the start of the turn. Nothing too fancy, I just want him because I love collecting. Malletus does decent melee damage, semi-tanky because of his Terminator armor, which, if you're not familiar with Terminator armor, the first hit deals less damage, but you're still super susceptible to psychic damage. Nauseous Rotbone is the best healer for the Chaos faction, and he is pretty damn beneficial for keeping your characters alive for legendary release events, or even in the campaign. And he also has a chance to resurrect them if they die next to you. So, yeah, that can definitely come in clutch, save you a couple stars, save you a couple characters, and really get the job done. He also has an AoE heal that does additional heal for Chaos units. So, super awesome. I don't really use Pestillion at all, hardly, as you can tell where he's at right now. He does an AoE aura that buffs your Chaos characters, and then he also is able to deal an additional blast damage on hits. Corodius is the summoner for this faction. He's able to summon the Poxwalkers out. They're okay. And then he is also able to weaken enemy Psykers. Nothing too special there. The Eldari. Almost every single one of these characters is going to be used in some way, shape, or form. Calandus is an absolute menace to society for the actual PvP TA game mode. So when you're actually playing against somebody and not AI, there's little buffs that are on the map, and Calandus is absolutely crucial on winning that game mode. He's able to pick up 2 buffs 1 turn and deals an absolute metric ton of damage to people. He also has the Wireweave Net, which if anybody tries to melee him each turn, they're going to have a bad time. But he also has his Fire and Reposition, so he can attack and then move again, and then take a lot less damage. Sorry, she. So good luck trying to kill her with a ranged attack whenever she uses that ability. Absolutely crucial for PvP. Now, the Eldari just recently got a new campaign out. The characters required are going to be Calandus, Aethana, and Eldrion, so you will need those 3 characters. Aethana, good for campaign, but one character that I find really beneficial to utilize for the Ghazghkull raid, because her passive really helps the Eldari that you're going to have on the field. Eldrion, if you don't know this already, is going to be a pretty staple must for every single raid that you're going to do. Probably the most important character in the game right now. And this Path of Command really comes in to help out. You get increased crit chance, increased damage. And this is for everybody, not just Eldari. Eldari just get an additional extra amount of damage, and this is rank 36. You're able to see it's 100 extra damage plus 135 extra damage. It adds up. The active ability isn't that great. It's good for like a quick AoE if 3 units line up. I find it pretty satisfying to use in the campaign. Outside of that, I'm not investing in it any higher than that. Now, I've talked about it. I said the name probably 10 times already. You're sick of hearing it, but Eldrion. Probably, at the moment, the #1 character in the game for one simple reason, and that is Doom. All enemy units exactly 2 hexes away take an additional damage. A lot of damage when attacked by friendly units. So, you park Eldrion here, bad guy is here, they take a lot more hits. 1 space in between. It is amazing. So, 765 base for me at 48, 256 additional if they're Eldari, which we know my favorite hitter is going to be an Eldari unit as well. Synergizes also, it adds on to the stuff that Aethana is able to provide, so absolute menace to society. This skill, if you're looking for something to prioritize, right here. I just recently unlocked Malkin Raw, and I am in love with this character. The damage output for this character, even at Silver 1, was beating my Gold 1 Volk. Remember, I said this was the one that you wanted. Volk's a budget version, and Mospec is a budget version, right? He's the Wish version. Malkin Raw is where it is at. Has a 6-hit ranged attack, just like Mospec, just like Volk. The difference is the fact that he's Eldari. So, right, he's getting the additional damage from Eldrion, but also has the inescapable accuracy. If he has not moved, both his range attacks will ignore hit reductions, etc., etc., etc. Additional crit, and then additional crit damage on top of that. So, you crit, you do additional crit damage. I've given him a good weapon, so I'm doing an additional 900 damage on top of that. On top of Eldrion providing a buff, which we already said was 1,000 damage. You can see how those numbers get absolutely nutty. Malkin Raw, greatest damage dealer in the game. However, not the best for Mortarion, just because Mortarion has a 3-hit cap, but I'll talk about raids some other time. I don't know too much about Janzar, have not unlocked Janzar at this time, but from what I'm understanding is essentially great for PvP, and that's really about it. So, kind of gets in there, melees people to death, and they have a bad time. Other than that, we'll see. I'll let y'all know more when I get Jane next. The Tau. This is going to be an interesting point because the Tau just recently got a huge buff, and I will discuss it. And that might make this individual right here really shine out. So, let's go through. These are not required for a campaign. However, every single Tau right now is going to be beneficial, except for you. Shoso, right? What's really cool about this character is each of their auto attacks summon a sniper drone. And these things are really cool because they apply, or this attack applies Marker Light, which you'll see here soon why I think this is awesome. But ranged attacks from Tau Empire deals 15% damage, so you're applying 15% damage. You summon a drone out. You can get a max of 3 of these drones on the field, and each turn you'll do Shoso's damage, and then the drones will also take a turn as well. Super awesome. And for this character, it has a one-hit ability, so that's going to be important for legendary release events. And this Seeker Missile Frequency Lock is really good too. Has a really long range, and it deals a lot of damage. Applies Marker Light, 5 hex range, and you're really able to get a really nice sneak attack in. So Shoso, great for PvP. Actually has a lot of uses for raids too. A great character all around. If you got it, invest. Ravos. Probably my favorite character to use in this game. It's just super fun. And this character is great for raids as well, specifically Silent King and also Gazcool. And the reason is because of this passive, the Cyclic Ion Blaster. Now, Ravos is able to do 353 to 529, and that's just at this rank, like I said, on top of what Ravos already does. Now, if the target has Marker Light, which I'll talk about that buff here in a second, or the mechanical trait, you deal an additional 191 damage at rank 42, right? Now, SK and Gazcool both are mechanical, so you can see where the benefit for that would come into play. Ravos is also exceptionally good for PvP and the raids as well, because she's able to enter this Overwatch state. She summons 2 shield drones next to her, and anything that comes by just gets absolutely shredded. And if they are able to hit her, then the shield drones will actually take those hits as well. That works very similar to how the sniper drones work. I didn't mention that, but if you try to attack Shoso directly, you would try to attack Ravos directly, the drones will actually take the hits, so that's pretty awesome. I do have my Ravos up to gold 3, so look at that, 4,700 health, an absolute tank. So, really beneficial for those game modes. Dark Strider. This character was extremely underwhelming until probably yesterday or 2 days ago. And the reason is, they just reworked the immune trait, and prior to the rework, you couldn't apply Marker Light to bosses, or anything with the immune trait. Now you can. Now, as we said before, Marker Light provides the Tau an additional 15% damage, but Dark Strider over here kind of did something similar to Helbrecht with the AoE buff, or Athana with the AoE buff, but instead helps everybody out hitting targets with Marker Light. Mind you, this is rank 13, and it's dealing 58 additional damage. This scales all the way up to close to 1,000 damage. So if you get that rank 50, you park Dark Strider next to your Malkin Raw, apply Marker Light. Malkin Raw is now hitting for an additional 1,000 damage. Yeah. And Ravos will also be hitting for an additional 15% damage, plus 1,000 damage on each hit. The numbers just start getting absolutely nutty. Now, his active ability is going to be decent. Mainly just to use. You don't really need any points in it, but essentially you can immune Dark Strider and adjacent allies from their close combat weakness, which is the real big weakness of the Tau across the board, is the close combat weakness. If you start your turn next to an enemy, you're adjacent to an enemy, you deal 50% reduced melee, 25% reduced range. Dark Strider can nullify that. It does decent damage. My Dark Strider is only bronze 3, 379 damage. Granted, it's only a 2-hit here on the range, which is a little unfortunate because, you know, it has more hits on its melee, but melee attacks are weak. Overall, this character was garbage until recently. Now, I 100% seeing Dark Strider taking up in the meta, and I will actually be focusing on this character soon as well. She is one of the most unique buffers added into the game because he is able to reactivate people's abilities. So, you summon 7 adds with Bellator on round 7. Round 8, you can do it again. You can have Ravos go into Overwatch 2 times in a PvP match. I am super excited to get this character coming out in just a month. I will be going through and doing that legendary release event with you there, and hopefully being able to offer everybody some advice with that. But also, he cycles through a round of buffs, which is pretty cool. So you have Sense of Stone, which is damage reduction, additional movement, which awesome, and then an extra, damage buff on top of everything else. So, and it will cycle through. So the annoying part is, ideally every 3 rounds is when you want to try to optimize your damage with She's passive, but I don't know. I think it's really cool to have a rotating cast of buffs. It could be a little bit annoying. You could get like the golden round on round 2. Like, cool, I've got 1 extra movement that helps me. Not at all. So, well, we'll see. I'm super excited to get this character. We talked about disappointing Tau. Shadow Sun, legendary release character as well. And I thought they were going to be good. I saw some of the potential in what this character could do, but it was just underwhelming, to say the least. I did invest in them a little bit, but let's take a look here. She's able to summon the command link drone and kind of like teleport throughout the battle, which is really cool for PvP. Really is. Other people just do her job better. And then she's able to give Tau an additional 10% chance per round to deal an extra hit, and they can do additional damage with ranged attacks. Now, this might be a lot better with Marker Light coming back into play, the Tau getting a lot more love. We'll see. If only I could go and just test things out relentlessly, then I would know, but kind of staying in that top 10 guild, every token matters, so definitely not able to run through and do a whole bunch of that. So that is the Tau. Eldari, Tau Empire, super crucial factions in the game at the moment. Definitely, if you got these characters, mainly, like I said, Calandus, PvP, Athana, not the greatest, but decent for Gazcool. Eldarion, yes. Malkin Raw, yes. Shoso, great. Ravos, an absolute must. Dark Strider, 100% see this being a go-to character. And then I talked to you about She. Now, the Adeptus Sororitas. You'll get Vindicta pretty early on. She comes handed to you for the Indomitus campaign, and I should have mine prioritized a little bit more. I just don't. Her AoE damage is going to carry you through a lot of campaign modes. She's a great character. Essentially, if she hits something, everything around it is getting lit on fire. Super cool. Isabella. She is the reason that I think Incissus is kind of bad, right? And the reason is, she just does everything that he wants to do, but better. Mainly because of this Medicus Ministorum. If your character is hit and she's next door, they're getting healed. So you get hit, heal instantly. It's absolutely fantastic. She does have a res on her active ability. She's great for legendary release events. She's great for campaigns. I just haven't really had the need to prioritize her at the moment, so I haven't. Morven Val is a character that I want mainly for the sake of collection. Outside of that, meh. She's good for PvP. She can really hit hard with the Sanctorum missiles that you see here. And, she's able to attack enemies and do kind of like a cleave effect. She's decent for PvP. I've seen some people run her, and she deals a lot of damage, but if you get her, good luck. If not, no skin off your back. Roswitha. This character I had sitting at the bottom of my barrel whenever Mortarion came out, and that was a mistake. She is the queen of killing psychers, 100%. And as with her and all the other characters in the Adeptus Sororitas, she has a buff right here called Active Faith. So she gets increased crit chance every time a friendly Imperial unit dies or kills an enemy. So that's awesome. And a really cool effect, I don't know if a lot of people are talking about that. I love bringing her into a salvage run. Because in the salvage run, on the second to last round, there's a box that will drop, and it can only be crit to be destroyed. I just don't use her the entire time, and then as soon as it spawns, she smacks it, guaranteed crit. I get my shards and stuff. It's awesome. So, definitely for that use. But, why is she good at killing Psychers? Well, her passive. Yeah. 1,100 damage. 1,100 damage coming up here against Psychers. So, and you know, this is just her, right? It's not giving this to anybody else, but hits like an absolute truck, or actually train carrying trucks, to be honest. So, yeah, that's going to be outstanding. But she also helps everybody else out. So, Brazier of Holy Fire, or Brazier of Holy Fire, it will deal pretty decent damage, plus her passive, to an enemy. But then, it will deal an additional damage if they're demons. And then all demons within 2 hexes of the target take 50% extra damage this round. Now, granted, immune demons, which, you know, Mortarion, right? He's only going to take 16% extra damage, but 16% of a lot is a lot. So, you can see how that would be beneficial. Come and have her run in, drop it on the Tyranids, drop it on Mortarion. I take her for both. I think she is top tier for both raids, Mortarion and the Tyranids right now. Go in, drop the additional damage, get your summons out, just absolutely shred whatever target you're trying to shred, certainly. So, Roswitha, if you got her, invest. Celestine, I have been farming for months and months and months to get this character. I'm actually doing all 3 KD and Elite missions and all 10 of the normal ones a day. I will have her soon, 20 days-ish. I should have her. But she is the goddess of PvP. I know I said some characters are good. She is the best. If she's attacked, she summons pretty much automatically 2 shield drones, kind of like Ravos is able to summon. They just take the hits for her. It's awesome. And she is able to just zoom around the map and absolutely just smack people. So she can move to any hex and just eviscerate people. If she gets hit with an Overwatch, she doesn't care. Her clone takes the damage, and she'll just absolutely mess them up. So this character, fantastic, has flying. She also has the Act of Faith, which does apply to her clones, right? So her clones die. She's like, thank you, I'll take an additional crit chance and crit damage. And then just absolutely shred your unit. So soon I will have my Celestine. Moving into the Space Wolves. This faction has a lot of hype. I definitely see a lot of benefits to them. But overall, not really worth too much priority. Ulf is really cool because for a while the game was dominated, and still kind of is, dominated by the summoner meta. And Ulf is able to just absolutely shred anything that comes near him that is a summon. So if you walk up next to Ulf and you are a summoner, then, or I'm sorry, you are a summoned creature, you're going to have a bad time. Also, don't move next to Ulf and use an ability or he will absolutely just shred you. Mind you, this is rank 26 and it is 520 at the high end times 5. So you're looking at taking 2,500 damage if you walk up next to Ulf. And mind you, that's just at the end of the rare upgrades, right? So you get him all the way up, use an ability next to him, you're going to have a bad time. His active is the Great Frost Axe. It just applies ice. We haven't talked about ice at all, but essentially, people take 25% additional crit damage. It's okay. T-Arc, he's a budget melee Roswitha when it comes to anti-psychers. The damage increase isn't that great. He's really cool for PvP because he has a displacement ability that he's able to pull people off. Mind you, it doesn't work for big targets, so you can't use it for raids. That is unfortunate. He's able to sneak in with Infiltrate, mess people up in PvP. Pretty fun character. Not really worth an investment. I have mine just at the level where he's going to be good for the TA event, but that's about it. Arjack, I unlocked him. I've given him really no love outside of just what I had laying around. He's just a tanky boy. People hit him. He says no, and then he's able to stun them. That's about it. Nothing special. Azrael, he's the first Archangel that we got. I think he's super cool, but I really don't foresee myself using him too much. One thing that he does have that's really unique right now is a unique item in the guild shop for Legendary. I'm sorry, the Rogue Trader Shop. I'm not sure if I have that available right now. Let me check. Oh, I do. Sweet. Great. But essentially, it's a 40% crit chance and 300 crit damage on unlock. And that is the highest in the game right now. Everything else, you're looking at blasters and swords. So, like a relic pistol right here, 35%. So you get an additional 5% crit. And the damage is pretty good too. So, but yeah, he's just essentially a character that is able to buff other Dark Angels when we get them, which we're getting one soon. And he's also able to buff people's Overwatch damage and their block damage. So, a general purpose buffer. I don't really foresee him being too useful at this time, but maybe in the future. I don't know why my brain skipped the Thousand Suns. Maybe because I'm super excited about them. And here's the reason why. Right now, I don't think they're that great, but they are fun. Yazagor is a very interesting character here, who is able to swap places with a Psyker. Oh, sorry, wrong ability. Swap places with a Psyker, and then that Psyker can do additional stuff. Now, granted, if they haven't moved already, so they'll do additional damage. He can swap places. It's a pretty cool use. Toth, he's going to synergize well with Psychers once again with his Hellfire Missile Rack. Essentially, if anybody has taken psychic damage this round, he's going to further double down and just ruin their day. Super fun character. And then he has this like ghost clone ability that he's able to utilize. So, a little bit of survivability there. Fun character. And then Abraxas, I think, is super fun as well. What he does is he'll walk somewhere and he'll summon an ad with this ability here. He'll summon that pink horror attack. Then he'll summon a screamer. And if that screamer attacks, it deals psychic damage, so he summons another one. And yes, he can summon a full ring around him. Yazagor can move him and then summon another ring. I actually took a video of that. I'll be able to link that or do my own video on it here soon. But it's super fun. It's super great for PvP, I think, like for TA. I definitely want to give this team a little bit more love. And we're going to get the next 2,000 Suns here soon, so I'm super excited. A little bit, if you haven't seen them already, they are right in here. We've got this guy, and then we have Ahriman. So these two are going to come in and hopefully really level up the Thousand Sun faction, but I am excited. So, I went a little longer than I thought on this video, but, there's a lot of characters to cover. I hopefully will be putting out a lot more videos in the near future. And if you have any recommendations for content, this is my first time ever doing this, please let me know what y'all want to see, because I am here for you. With that being said, feel free to message me. I will be dropping Discord links down below in the information section. Also, if you haven't already, there's this awesome thing that you can do, refer a friend. I'll go ahead and shamelessly plug that right now. But yeah, if you type in this referral code, you are able to add me as your referred player, and I'll get some rewards, you'll get some rewards, and, we'll keep the world spinning. So I would appreciate that. Outside of that, if you like this video, let me know, and we'll definitely get some more rolling. That being said, this is Jace. Peace.